My students are all post-16 students, and they've been doing a construction course back at school. It's been great for them to put their skills into practice down at the Coalville Market.
Yeah, do you want to show us?
Sure.
Wow. What have you been painting him with?
Paint that, paint that, paint that, paint that, paint that, on the top.
Fantastic. It's looking really good. Is it hard work painting all that?
Yeah.
So we're making a tarantula, so we put some glue and tissues on. This is the Formula 1, so we're tending to make stuff down here.
And what's that bit going to be down there?
The soldier's hole to hide.
They're getting a lot out of it. Parents are really pleased with their progress and their comments and what they've been talking about when they've got home. Our students had been involved in a local history project. They've been around Coalville looking at the houses where some of the soldiers had lived originally. So this has been a great project.
Yes, about a decade ago I wrote a book called 50 Good Men and True regarding the famous 50 soldiers that came from Coalville and District. Indeed, one of those soldiers was my grandfather, Charles Hatter, a very fine man who suffered terribly in the war, but he would not talk about it until about 1964 when there was a series on BBC television called The Great War. I then realised that what he'd gone through in that war and spoke to him and said, please inform me whatever you can, because I want to record all this information so that the famous 50 are never forgotten. The 1st 5th Battalion, they were 50 men short, you see, and so we decided to come to Coalville because Coalville, they had coal miners, engineers, etc., men who could stand, who were tough enough, they had a difficult life, and they were ideal to be in the forces. I find it very emotional, obviously standing here next to a cardboard cutout of my grandfather. So I wrote the book so it wouldn't be forgotten. We're now in a situation, after all of this, they will never be forgotten, and they don't deserve to be forgotten because they led the way for the 5.5 to 6 million soldiers that followed them in the First World War.
Well, this soldier is one of my relatives. It's George William Underwood. George went to war in 1914 and he fought for 4 years until he was tragically killed in 1980. As a family member, it's a privilege really to remember George, and we were at the War Memorial this morning at 11 o'clock for the 2-minute silence and the service to celebrate the fallen, and it was particularly special to be here in Coalville where George left to set off to war.
It makes us extremely proud, and because of this exhibition, because I was contacted, we found out even more about his experiences in the war, and we just think it's amazing.
My name's Susan McClavey, and this is my granddad, James Emerson, and his brother William behind. We've come down to look at the exhibition today because we feel so proud that he was one of the first 50 to go.
I feel quite humbled to stand here today, that the people of Coalville still remember what those lads did all those years ago.
Up to mighty London came an Irish lad one day. All the streets were paved with gold, so everyone was gay, singing songs of Piccadilly, Strand and Leicester Square, till Paddy got excited and he shouted to them there. It's a long way to Tipperary, it's a long way to go. It's a long way to Tipperary, to the sweetest girl I know. Goodbye Piccadilly, farewell Leicester
We support veterans who've fallen on hard times. More than 10% of the UK homeless are actually ex-services. So there's a lot of people out there who need our support.
I served 15 years in the army. I am from the first Gulf, Bosnia, Iraq, Northern Ireland. When I came out, I wasn't in the greatest of place. What I'm doing now for the charities, it just does me the world of good.
It's not just about putting a small little community on the map, it makes that little community much more widely connected to the wider world.
I wanted my grandfather and his 49 brotherly friends to be remembered for all time because of what they achieved.